Hello, everyone. Welcome to Agent 21 today. So good to see all of you. I'm sure a few people will continue to join us, but we will let them in as they come. So hope you are all here today for Agent 21, budgeting for growth and investing in your future. So today I have with me Candy Dykman. Hey, everybody. She has agreed to do a budgeting session with us, and I thought, who better to learn from than somebody who actually is doing a budget? So if you guys are ready to take your business to the next level for 2025, you are in the right place. I just want to start today's meeting off by talking a little bit about my favorite quote, because I think it resonates so much with Tom Ferry. Most of you know who Tom Ferry is, but one of his quotes is, if you're not tracking your finances, you're not running a business. You're just hoping for success. So hopefully today we can get it to where you are not hoping, and we can gear you up for making a road plan on setting your budget and investing in your growth. So let's get started.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so budgeting, like how many of you out there even have a budget? Just raise your hand at the top of the screen. Anybody out there have a budget? Okay, got one with the budget here. What about a budget for your house? How many are budgeting your home? Like what bills you have to pay per the month? Anybody do a budget for that? Okay. All right.
So 1 out of 13.
Perfect.
Okay.
This is going to be a good meeting. I love it.
Glad you're all here.
So before we start talking about how do we set a budget, let's talk about why setting a budget. Okay. Candy, how did you start?
Well, I didn't have a budget when I started. My husband is always great for saying we need a budget. Okay, fine. You set the budget and I'll spend. That doesn't really work very well. So I had to do the home one together. But for my business, I really didn't think about, first of all, I didn't even think I had a business. I just thought I was a realtor, right? I just get up, my phone rings, I go show houses or I go list a house. Until I kind of started growing a little bit and we got to the end of the year and we did our, financial planning and income taxes and was like, whoa, where'd all the money go? I brought the money in, but where did I spend it? And that's when at that time, my financial planner said, you really need to budget. You need to know where you want to spend your money. And then actually, where did you spend your money at the end of the year? About that same time, I started doing coaching with Tom Ferry, and they are all about a budget. It's like you do your business plan and you do your budget. But again, I didn't really even know where to start neither. So, with Tom Ferry's help and my financial planner was kind of here's what you need to track. And then another question was, well, how do I know how much money I put in those expenses? Like, I don't know, how much money am I going to spend next year? So a lot of thinking does go into it and a lot of planning. I don't think it's something you can just one day say, I'm going to make a budget today. You need to gather all your information. You need to go through your bills. It gets pretty in depth, but once you get a system in place, it does get pretty easy. It really does.
Yeah. They always say historically, like anybody who works in commission sales are the worst budgeters, because maybe you've just made a sale or you get this big check and you're excited about it. You have all this money. You just expect it's going to keep happening. Like finally it's happened. But in sales, it can be up and down, up and down. So budgeting, also knowing what time and when to spend the money and when not to spend the money is also really important, I would think.
Oh, for sure. Because, we've all been there. I mean, as your business grows, you eventually have a little bit more steady income. You kind of can see, and again, if you do business planning, your goal is to have, 4 listings a month or 3 closings or 10 closings, whatever that goal is. And so you really kind of have to do your budget off your goal, but they kind of play hand in hand, because then if you are reaching your goal of your business plan, the budget will follow that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think we know that it's probably a good idea to have a budget, and how do we invest? So I think it's always a good reminder too, just to say, as real estate agents, you are running a business. This is an actual business.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even think about it. We just are like, I'm doing real estate. I love it. I love showing houses. I love meeting the people, but you are running a business.
Absolutely. Like I will use it in my listing presentations that this is a business for me. And we'll get into a little bit reasons why down the road. But like a lot of agents, we know them all, and maybe you're one of them, and it's not right or wrong. It's just what you want to do for yourself. Are you working on your business, or are you working in your business? Are you just being reactive, or are you being proactive? And I got to a point where I was like, all right. And for me, it was a really short time. I realized I can't do this by just waiting for the phone to ring. I need to make the phone ring.
Yeah.
And that was a really short time for me to acknowledge, like, I want to run this as a business. You don't have to have business hours, so to speak, because we're realtors, right? I mean, you can't go to a boutique in Mankato and there's a sign on the door that says, oh, I'll be back at 2, and then I'll be in the store for a couple hours, and then I'll be back again at 9 o'clock tonight. But that's kind of what we do, because we're out, we work at 9 at night, we work at 5:30 in the morning. We don't have real set hours. So that's not a traditional business hour theme. But we should run the back end of it as a business. We should know what kind of monies are we working with, so that we know how to reinvest into our own business to get that growth.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is your business. That is I think one of the coolest things is knowing that you are in control. You are running it. When you have that mindset at first that you are running a business, it makes you really think about the decisions and how you're going to support that business. Like, all businesses usually have accounting, like how is that money coming in and going out? They set a budget. They have a marketing budget, how they're going to grow that business. They have expenses.
Yeah.
So there are expenses, like there are dues that you have to pay. There are, just a number of things that come along with it that you've also got to track into that budget.
For sure.
So really kind of running it as a business rather than just, signing up for something and hoping, that's not planning, just like Tom Ferry told us. So
and I think it goes to, what are your goals? And again, that kind of goes back to that business planning. Like, in your business plan, if you want to just be a reactive person, that's your business plan. You can do that. But if you want to grow and you want to run it as a business, you really have to have all the aspects of a true business.
That's true. That's true. So today we kind of want to jump in a little bit and talk about setting a smart budget. So I think the best way really to start this portion is to talk about how much should we have to work with. And so it's not like it's a set dollar figure. It's based on a percentage of the business. So we could have a new agent on here today listening that it's their first year. So they are not really sure what their gross revenue for the year is going to be. We could have agents that have been doing this for 30 years, and they pretty much know on average, this is how much they make every year. So really kind of understanding, what does that take and what is that investment going to look like? It's probably very different for somebody in their first year than somebody who's been doing it for a few years.
Oh, sure.
But like, based on just industry trends, what percentage, is really important. Industry standard for a budget is setting 10 to 15% of your gross revenue aside to reinvest. So that's just like an industry standard. That's a good starting point. Because if you don't even know, like, is it supposed to be 50? Is it 30? Is it 5%?
Right.
How much?
Right? And I would say that, yes, that's industry standard, but you also have to do what works for you and your finances and your family. It's kind of like, how much do you donate to church? Well, it's really a personal preference, but they do say about 10% of your salary. But some months you might be able to do that, some months you can't. So again, you have to go to what your comfort is. But I did try very early to say, for every sale I had, I'm going to put, I don't even know what the number was anymore because it's been a while, but maybe I said I'm going to take 3% of that and put it back into my business, so that the next listing I get, I can send out postcards, or I can do just a little bit more with everyone. But I think if you have the mindset of, for every closing, set something away, just kind of like when you worked in, I don't know, retail or your first job, did you spend everything that you had, or did your parents teach you you got to save something, you got to have a little savings account? So it's kind of the same thing. Like you just take your money and put it into your different buckets, and one of them should be reinvesting into yourself and into your business.
Yeah, and that's really important too, because most of you probably know what your expenses are just on a personal level, like what's your mortgage, the water bill, the heat, the gas, the electric, the car payment. That you have to survive. You have to be able to pay those bills. So just kind of knowing what that amount is and what you're making.
Yep.
I mean, that's just a great place just to start. If you have nothing else, at least
Right.
know that.
Yeah,
know what you need to make per month. That's going to help you with your business plan.
Yeah.
To set how many houses you need to sell or buyers you need to work with, so that you're able to cover your expenses first and foremost.
Absolutely.
So you can be your best self and have, some personal growth. But today we want to talk about budgeting for growth.
Yes. Yep.
And not hoping that, if I do this, this will work. We want to make sure that we're making an investment, which is setting aside that budget. So if we were, let's just play with 10%. Let's just say that's a pretty good even number for us to start with. If we're going to do that, I think it's really important to know which buckets we're going to allocate that 10% to.
Yep.
So if we're budgeting, what are the things that you put? What are the categories that you invest in, Candy?
So for me, like I always want to reinvest. Again, if you listen to one that I did, I don't know, my spear, whichever, I don't know what the title of it was, but I talked about going deeper versus wider. So I want to reinvest in the current business I already have. So, some of my buckets would be marketing my listings. So you could get even deeper, like I think I do, like how am I marketing my listings? Is that postcards? Is that postage? For sure, you want to be social media. So I know that's one of my buckets, is how much am I spending on boosting my ads or my listings? Let's see, what else do I have? Some of my donations, because I do donations throughout the year as well. I feel like I have a lot.
What about leads, Candy?
Oh yeah. So you want leads, right? I forgot about probably the biggest one. So, pick a couple, 1, 2, 2 or 3 lead sources that you want to invest in, and decide how much you want to invest in. So make sure you're doing your research though, because you don't want to spend money on something that, it's not going to come through at the end of the year. Let's see. What else do I do?
So personal and professional development, you talked about having a coach.
Yep. So we do. So that is one of mine as well. And, that could be like, maybe you're buying books. If you don't want to hire a coach, maybe you're just buying some books, or you're, I guess listening to podcasts doesn't cost anything, does it? But buying of the books probably one. Your continuing education, that should be in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, did I have anything else written down on that? I think that's probably the majority for someone that's new starting out, like mine. If anybody really wanted to see mine, let me know, because I do a lot of marketing. I do a lot of, I have a moving van. I, do a lot of sponsorship. So those are things as you grow. But so don't try to do everything at once. Just kind of pick 1 or 2 things. Like, okay, maybe this year I want to sponsor something. And remember, we have Atwood Mortgage that wants to work with us on sponsoring events. So maybe you're going to pick a parade that you want to be in and sponsor that. So that would be an expense. I think that's the majority of my buckets.
I think that makes it pretty simple to set a smart budget, is just to allocate those buckets. So marketing, leads, any of that personal development. So your CE, reading books, maybe an accountability coach. And then down the line, you might want to consider operations. So maybe you need a support staff. Maybe you need transaction coordinator. Maybe you need a virtual assistant. And as you scale your business, that could become another bucket.
Yep.
It could also become a savings to know that now that you're investing for your growth and you're budgeting for it, that's probably going to happen because you're going to become busier. So that could, time comes, you are, financially set to be able to make some of those choices. So I think, just kind of looking at it, I would say if I were to organize it, I would say leads is probably the most important because that's the lifeblood of your business.
Absolutely. And I would say also, like, when you do your business plan, do you want to grow on, you hear how many times I go back to the business plan? They
Yeah.
really go hand in hand. Do you want to do more listings in 2025, or do you want to obtain more buyers? You know, for me, maybe 3 years ago, I think I made it a goal that I wanted to, I was pretty 50-50 for a couple of years. And I said, I want to take off and I want to do more listings. So I invested my money more into listings. So my lead generation was to capture more listings versus the buyer. So you need to decide that on your own and then find those resources. And keep in mind, there's a lot of, I won't say free referral based programs, but you don't have to pay up front. You can pay when you actually close on something. So take a look at those before you just start investing money in Zillow or realtor.com or sold.com, whichever ones you choose to pick.
Yeah. And keeping it simple too. So leads could also be posting on social media and boosting it.
Yeah.
It's thinking about a way that you're going to drive somebody back to take an action. So that lead that maybe you promoted one of your listings, or maybe another agent's listing in your office. If you didn't have a listing, just to try to get them to click to call now. Maybe you could show them that house, maybe, whatever. But now they're clicking, and now you're taking them to your website.
Yeah.
And they're filling out a form, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that would be a lead, or realtor.com or Zillow, or maybe your referrals. Maybe you're sending out a postcard and to your referral source, and you're asking them, hey, if you know somebody, if you liked my services, maybe you know somebody that's looking to move, or maybe they're having a career change, or they're having a baby, or their kids are going off to college, right? You can kind of learn a little bit more about who you're working with. And then, so that's saving some money on a postcard. So don't always think of lead generation as buying leads.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's driving leads back to your business. So
yeah.
leads.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, that's good. Leads are one of those things too that you have to have, right? Or you're not going to work with anybody.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say that also, you have to, we just threw a bunch of ideas at you. I think in that business plan, just pick one or two things of where you want to grow your business. And so if you say, I want to do more listings this year, okay, how are we going to get more listings? So don't immediately think you have to go buy leads and send out all these postcards and do more social media stuff. Like pick one or two of those things and then really focus on that for the year. I think it's easier to allocate your funds when you know I only have to spend money on one or two things versus 5 things.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think also building, marketing, building a brand. So you can't only ask for leads. You have to also promote yourself.
Absolutely.
Why would I choose you to help me find my house? Why would I choose you to list my house? Right? So building some of that marketing, it can be the same structure that you set for your leads, and just make sure that you're got your picture. It's on there. You're really kind of leaning in and telling people, hey, I'm in real estate. Don't be a secret agent, right?
Yeah.
So we want to know that your name, and I want to combine that to know that you do real estate and that you like helping people and what you're good at or why you like doing it. So on social media, if that's one of the buckets that you chose, you're going to grow in social media, make sure to post about yourself. Make sure to tell people that you're available and make sure to engage with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Century 21 does a great job for us on a national level, even community level, but you're responsible to market yourself. I mean, you want to be known as not just Century 21, but you want to be known as the agent at Century 21. Tell people where you work, tell people what you do. Make people think that you actually own the brokerage. I don't know. I mean, Century 21 is awesome and, they do what they can do, but they're not responsible for marketing each individual agent.
Right.
So you do have to reinvest in your own marketing and your own marketing and branding.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Century 21 too, because on 21 Online, the Century 21 University is just a wealth of information. There's coaching.
Yeah.
There's classes that you can take about how to generate leads, how to grow your listing base. So, we talked a little bit about budgeting and putting, money into your personal development with Century 21, that bucket's already filled if
Yeah,
you
exactly.
took advantage of it. So
Yeah,
you
that's a
could
good point.
spend more money on leads because you've already saved money on that personal development. But it's always that same adage, like, are you going to do it? So when you set that goal and you do, invest money, I also think of money as time,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So budget the time, take the time, make it a priority. So
Yeah. And just kind of, I know we're really talking marketing, budgeting, but back to the business planning, just don't in your business plan, don't say I'm going to do more education and then reinvest in yourself. You have to say I'm going to do 1 hour extra a month. Like I belong to a BNI group, and in my head, I always say I'm doing 1 hour of BNI education a week. So if you break it down, it just makes it way more easier. And the more in depth you can go and break things down, the easier it gets to obtain. So instead of saying, I want to sell 20 houses this year, well, that's great, but how are you going to sell 20 houses? Now let's break it down to weekly. What are you going to do? To monthly, to quarterly.
and being intentional.
Yes.
That helps you to be intentional and have a roadmap.
Yep.
For your
You need
success.
that roadmap.
For your success. So, I mean, if we do all of these things, that's awesome, right? That would be so cool if we just did those first things. That'd be a great first step. But then how do we know if it's working, right? How do we know if it's actually working? And what is, how do we track this? How do we just know that what we're putting into it is
Yeah.
actually paying dividends, or we're getting back from it? Like, will I know the next day?
Yep.
Would I know in 2 days? How long does it take before you kind of know if something's working? What have you experienced?
Well, so like my first year when I did it, again, it was kind of an eye opener because I, did our taxes and I saw how much I worked super hard. We all work really, really hard for our business and, for the money. That's what we do, right? And I remember sitting down going, oh my God, I made that money, but where is it? Like literally, where is it? I know Century 21 gets a very small portion of it. And then a lot of it goes to our taxes. Yep. So don't forget to pay your taxes. That should be in your budget.
Budget those taxes.
Taxes, because no one's taking it out for you. So don't forget that. But our goal is always to have more money at the end of the year than what we spend. I mean, that's obviously we have to have that.
Yep.
But I remember sitting down that first financial planning meeting I had with our financial planner, and I was just like, okay, something's got to change because I feel like I worked my ass off. Sorry for the language, but I'm like, and I don't have that much to show for it. So that was kind of my opener for that. So then what I did is I just literally started a spreadsheet. The planner said that we should be focusing on, and that I put some dollar figures in there, and then quarterly I went back and checked on it. Okay, did I stay within that budget? I mean, I'm assuming most of you guys, just like I do, you're always getting asked, will you donate? Will you donate? Will you donate? And I have learned to pass that off. Let me check with my assistant. Let me check with my marketing director to see if it's still in my budget. Is what I always say. And that's the easy line. You can say the same thing. Let me go to my marketing budget and see. And you say, sorry, I didn't budget for it. So that part's easy to get out of some of those things. But it's super easy to spend more than what you have budgeted for. So if you do look at it quarterly, you can say, okay, well, I was under my budget. So great. Doesn't mean go spend more. Or, oh, I went over on boosting Facebook ads. Maybe I need to pull back just a little bit. Or you look at it and say, well, okay, I might have went over budget, but I actually got 2 new leads off of it, 2 more leads than I actually planned on having. So then it kind of balances out. So you do have to do it. It's kind of like that business plan. You can't set it and leave it. You got to set it and go back and keep looking at it all the time. I don't do weekly. Quarterly would be a goal for sure.
That's awesome. I think tracking it is just so important because you have to know what's working. Different things are going to work for different agents. Different times of the year are also, contingent on, I always like to say, if you're going to put some dollars out, like you want to fish when the fish are biting. You don't want to spend the money on the bait when the fish aren't biting. So you kind of, we're in Minnesota or Wisconsin or North Dakota, depending on where you're located, but we're seasonal.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that real estate stops. It continues on for those that have that plan and are budgeting and are putting those dollars back in and reinvesting, they don't see as much up and down. Like spring and summer are great, and then fall and winter just kind of fall off the map, right?
But does that mean you stop marketing yourself during those months?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
But you want to know when
Yeah.
to really go after. If there are a lot of buyers or sellers coming into the market, you have to know that you need to budget because your competition has grown.
Right, right.
Where you might not have to spend as much, but you have to continue to generate those leads. Because remember, today's topic is reinvesting in your growth, like
Yeah.
budgeting for growth. So how can we budget to ensure that next month and the following month and year after year, we're continuing to grow,
Right.
right? And we're
So
doing
you like
something.
in that spreadsheet, make sure you're tracking, obviously your buckets, and then go across and do it monthly. So, have what you budgeted and then actually go in and put in the real number. Go to your credit card statement or however you're keeping track of things. If you don't have just a business credit card, that'd be another tip. Just get a business credit card. Everything business related goes on that. I'm sure most of you probably already have that, but you'd be surprised how many people don't. And then you can go in and track that and break that all down so that you can figure out, where did I spend my money? How did I spend it? I went over or I was under. But don't do it quarterly. That's just too much to manage. Monthly is when you really should go in and do that.
Yeah. And then when we talk about ROI, some people ask me, what does ROI mean? So ROI is really just that return on investment. So if you budgeted $300 for your Facebook for the quarter, did you get any leads off of that? So what is your return on investment? So let's say that you were able to work with 2 buyers and you know that they had clicked on this, they contacted you, they said they saw this on your Facebook page. And let's say you worked with a buyer and you helped them buy a $250,000 house, right? Would you say that was a good return on investment for that $300? Or how do you measure that? How do you know if that's a good return on investment?
Well, I think you have to evaluate how much money did you put in versus how much did you get out.
Mhm.
Like, I'll just tell you, for example, I do invest in realtor.com. And I spend quite a bit of money on that. So I have to go back now and look, and I haven't done it yet for the year. I have to go back and look at how many of those leads did I actually convert.
Mhm.
And if it didn't get me my money back, that's a bad investment.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about realtor.com. That's an interesting one. I think a lot of people are familiar with how that system works and how you buy leads from them and you're buying it by the zip code. It's not guaranteed. Other agents are also being called.
Right.
So they might have that same zip code. So when you make an investment, let's say you do buy realtor.com leads, just for example, like, are you making sure that you're able to answer your phone? Because you could be spending it, you could be getting a great amount of leads, but maybe you're not quick enough to answer.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just don't know exactly really what to say on the phone when you call, so you're really not converting them. So you have to really consider, all things considered,
Right.
how many did you convert? You might have gotten 20 leads,
Yes.
but you only
It's the conversion.
converted
I
one.
don't care how many leads I got necessarily. It's how much did I convert?
Yes.
I mean, the leads are important too,
Yeah.
but it's the conversion. Yeah.
We did get a question here from Tom. He asked, any lead companies you would recommend? The ones he's seen have a fee up front and then at closing, is that the norm? Example, 500 a year and then the closing fee? What have you seen, Candy?
No, I have probably 10 different ones. I'm not saying they're huge lead generators, but I have my name with them. That you only pay if you close. So we can get those out to you. I can put them somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
We
send
can
some
do that.
out. Yeah.
Okay. And I got those from a coach that I got through. I did the Ultimate Listing Machine with Greg Harrelson. Is that
Yeah,
his last name?
that's exactly
First off,
right.
if you have never done it, do it. Spend the money, do it. That was amazing, but I did get those lead sources from them.
Yeah. There are a number of different ways to generate leads and not have to pay for them by really just being yourself, being
Mhm.
active in your community.
Yes. Yeah.
Talking to people, right? Was anybody ever door knocked on the call today? Well, that costs a little time and maybe some sore feet,
does,
depending
yeah,
on
yeah.
how far up and down the block you want to go.
Yeah.
But that is also lead generation. So make sure that you're considering that not everything is monetary. And I think the greatest buckets that you could put in your budget is time.
Yeah.
So if you just say time and then be committed, Candy talked a lot about breaking that down, being intentional by week, by month, you're more likely to do it. And then it's not this big elephant that you're trying to eat all at once. You're just taking one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
staying consistent.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got to kind of think of it as, like if you buy a gym membership, you're most likely to go because you're investing the money. Now, if a gym said, hey, come for free whenever you want to, are you going to go? Probably not. But if you spend that, I don't even know what it costs, but let's just say $300 a month for a gym membership, you're going to be sure to go. It's kind of like when you go and buy something from the grocery store. Well, if it was free, you would just take it all and you would probably never use even a half of it. But if you're paying for it, you're going to use it. We don't like to waste money.
I think how many of us have started our gym? We bought the gym membership, but we haven't seen any results, right?
Yeah, that's
3 months later, I'm like, I'm going to swing by that place and see what's going on because I haven't been yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just thought if I just got the gym membership, I should probably be seeing some results by now.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't mention I needed to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to go. So I have to be present at the gym as I'm investing in it. Right.
Absolutely.
So I can't just invest and then it doesn't work. Well,
Yeah.
how much did you invested it? Did you follow up? Did you work on it? Did you look at it? Did you change things up? Did you?
For sure. Yep. It kind of goes along the line. I used to be a personal trainer and I didn't train people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? I mean, they would come to me, maybe 2-3 times a week, but I always gave them homework. Like this is what you have to do through the week to be successful. If they didn't do that, that was on them, not on me. I worked them hard when they were there. So I kind of relate it to the same thing is, you're paying for your marketing, you're paying for yourself, you're paying for these leads. You're going to get out of it what you put into it, basically.
Yeah. And it's like that time of the year because gym memberships are just around the corner, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's starting in January. So think about it too of accountability.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking a lot about accountability here. So you're being accountable, first of all, by setting a business plan, right? Because that's going to help you know what your goal is to be accountable to. And now you've set a budget.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And now you're going to be accountable to that. But not all of us can just single-handedly be accountable, right? Like
for sure.
We're an independent agent. Some of us go into our office, our local office, and we're around other agents and we're talking, and that seems to help with it. But some of us don't, and we're just kind of floating on an island. And so we feel very much like ourselves. Did you ever have an accountability coach or a partner, or what would you suggest?
Well, first of all, is my husband. Good, bad, or indifferent. He's the money guy, for sure. But so we do look at it as a family together, right? I mean, and so if you are married and have a family, I mean, that's important. So start there. But beyond that, for me, I've had a real estate coach for 7 years, I think 6-7 years, somewhere in there. So that was helpful for me. But again, that's an expense and it is quite expensive. But if you don't want to invest that kind of money, have your branch manager be your person that just says, hey, once a month, let's just take 10 minutes and look at our budget and see how we're doing. Pick your favorite agent, or someone that you can trust and that's not going to be judgy, and say, let's, once a month, let's look at each other's budget and just help each other. We're not in competition with each other. We are a team. And the more that you can look at it that way and help each other, your business is going to grow and you're going to help the next agent's business grow as well. So I think that's super important to do.
Yeah. It's kind of like Matt always says, we can do more together than we ever could apart, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you have a financial planner that you like, my financial planner doesn't charge me for meetings, but you could set up something with them. Even then, probably more quarterly. But I know my financial planner, if I said, hey, I want to meet with you once a month to make sure I'm on track for my budget and where I should be moving things around with, he would do that in a heartbeat. So maybe check with your financial planner.
It's a good one. That's a really good one because they're the ones that are always telling you at the end of the year what you didn't do or didn't do right.
So you didn't spend enough.
Maybe check in once so it's not so harsh at the end, right?
Yeah.
That's really good.
And one thing I do want to, and I don't know if this is really the place for this, but be aware of what you're spending and is it a business write-off? Like, I'm not a financial planner, I'm not a tax person whatsoever, but I'm sure there's like, I probably spend thousands of dollars a year that I probably could be writing a part of that off and I'm not tracking it. And like, I don't have my business card, let's put in my personal card. And then that was just lost monies that I could maybe have wrote off.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
You guys, there are so many apps out there too to help keep track of your mileage, to help keep track of your receipts, to help it just organize it. So look at apps. There are so many apps. I'm sure Matt has an app for that. We do a lot of Matt's apps courses. So he probably has a lot of apps that he could tell us about.
You mean the Geekster?
Uh-huh. Yeah, the
That guy?
Geekster Matt. Yep. So I think just, looking at what tools, like, does an app help you to keep it all in line or keep track of things? What is that thing for you? Maybe it's a spreadsheet. Maybe, I know Nathan talked to us. He writes everything down. He has a weekly sheet that he writes down and he crosses off. So do what works for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, have this elaborate plan and it look like, this big tree map has been built out, and
Yeah.
it can be very simple. This is a smart budget. This is one that you are managing. This is one that has to work for you and your family or your personal expenses, your lifestyle, and what that looks like. So
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if you haven't ever done a budget before, something I think very easily, I haven't done it, so I don't know how it would turn out, but you could probably go to AI and just say, pretend you're a realtor and what would be the top 5 things to put in a budget. And you could start there.
yeah.
And then or you can even say, this was my gross income last year. What should my budget look like based off of these categories? Like, where should I be spending my money? You
Yeah.
could even go one step further and say, I want to grow by listings. I want to grow by, 4. I want to do 4 more listings, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is for you, and put that information in there. And I bet AI would come up with something for you and you can tweak it from there. That's something that works for you.
Yeah. I think that is one of those things that using ChatGPT and using AI, it's only going to help. It's not going to hurt. Some people are scared of jumping on, or what is this going to do, or how do you do it? It's really simple. I mean, you could just Google ChatGPT.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I
free.
use.
You log in and you just start typing questions. You can continue to ask it questions. You can say, all right, so if I were to budget that, how would you suggest a real estate agent budget? What should they be spending their money on? What should they,
Yeah.
and then give me examples.
Yeah. Yep. It's super easy to do. Just play with it.
Yeah, it's a
Doesn't
great
go
one.
anywhere. Just play with it.
So now that we've kind of talked about setting our budget and then what are those buckets and how do we keep track and measure that ROI, how do we grow our business?
Yeah. So what I do is at the end of the year. So when I say end of the year, I'm saying like October, November, right? I know October can be pretty busy, so often it flows into November. Is you gather all of your expenses, you put them in your buckets. If you haven't been doing that monthly, just make sure you tighten it up a little bit. And then you go through it and say, okay, this is what my income was. This is what my budget was. And this is my actual expenses. And then this is what was my take home after all of that. And then you decide, okay, you go through each one of them. Like, did I see a return on my investment for, what do I want to say, my TV commercial that I have? Well, that's a little hard to judge and monitor or put a dollar number on it. But for me, for that, I say, well, I do hear a lot of people say, like, I will have, even if I have 2 or 3 people that I get a listing from that say, well, I called you because I saw your commercial, to me, worth it. We're keeping it on the list. I may go back to my realtor.com one. I do have to look into that one a little bit because I don't think I'm getting my return on my investment. But just go through all of your categories and say, did I see a return for that? Or do I think I got the exposure I was hoping to get from that? And then that number can go up and down. You might add to it, or you might say that didn't work. Let's take that off the list. And if you still have room in that budget to add something new to try, put that in there. Like Carla said, there's so many free things you can do as well, but like focus on the ones that you want to invest into, and see how they worked out. And then every year you're going to get better at that. I've taken off my list and I've added on my list every year. I kind of add some, I always try to think of one more marketing initiative every year that I'm going to implement. Well, something else then has to fall off, right? I can't be adding all the time. So I add something new and I take something off.
Yeah. I think it's also, fair to say that you're setting that business plan. Candy's mentioned that so many times. I'm glad that you're talking about that. It's such an important step to setting a budget. But let's say that your goal was to, work with 5 buyers and 5 sellers.
Okay.
So you're going to do 10 deals this year. You can average out what those are. What if next year, do you want to do 15? Right? So we have to make sure that we're probably setting money aside, because the only way to get to 15 is to continue to do this and to grow. So how do you consider what that growth is? Like I know you, Candy, you want to grow every year. You have big goals, you set them. So how do you budget for that? How do you budget to know that next year it's going to take a little bit more to invest?
Well, I think I don't know if I actually have the answer to that. I think I still always try to be within that 10 to 20% of my income. So maybe growth wise, like I want to grow close to 25% this year from where I ended last year. That's a big goal, I know, but that's my goal. You all heard it. That's my goal.
Accountability right there.
So I think I just kind of, I don't know if I have that answer actually.
So I think a lot of it comes, when you say you're going to set this goal for this year, you're budgeting for it. If you hit that goal, and then next year you're investing that 10 to 20%, whatever your number is, if you hit your goal this year, your gross revenue should be higher,
right?
Which is going to help you reinvest. So hitting those goals, knowing those milestones, and continuing to reinvest. Now, growth doesn't always have to look like more deals, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Growth can look like so many different things depending on what your goal is, what your business plan is. One of the things that I've heard agents come, they talk to me, and I try to help them through. Man, I really did this great business plan last year. My business really took off. I really got involved in X, Y, and Z, and now it's a lot. And I just feel like I'm falling behind and I can't stay on top of it. And they're kind of getting ready to scale.
Yep.
I know you have a staff, Candy. How did that come about? When did you decide? Was that's
easy? Kind of a scary, no, it actually was not easy, first of all. And that was scary because I think they say if you do 15 transactions a year, you should have a transaction coordinator. If you do 30 transactions a year, you should have an admin staff. I think, because I've had mine for a long time now, so I kind of have forgotten those numbers, but it's somewhere along there and I can find it if anybody really wants it. But it was scary. My coach kept telling me, you're doing all of that all by yourself. And I'm like, yep. And he just kept saying, just imagine how much more you can do if you have somebody doing the transaction part of it. And it took me a while to get there because that was scary. I kept saying to myself, well, what if I don't make that money? What if I don't have the money to pay them? So you do have to budget for it. So I did take that leap and I budgeted for that. But best reinvestment in myself, in my business that I ever had. I mean, I was waking up at nighttime, and that's kind of when I knew I had to do it. I would wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh, I think I have a closing tomorrow. Oh my God, did I do this, and this? And I didn't want that feeling anymore. So by spending the money on a transaction coordinator, that helped alleviate stress, which helped me be a better person daily. And it allows me to go do more business because I'm not in the office doing the paperwork and making sure inspections got done and making sure the appraisal came back and all those small details that have to get done. They're super important. So that was for the transaction coordinator. So that took me a while to do that. And then I did have an admin person before I actually had the transaction coordinator. Yep, I did. I started small. I started with just part-time. Because same thing, I worried, like, what if I don't have the money? What if I don't have any business? What if I don't have any business next year? What am I going to do? I'm here, I have the staff and I have no business. I'm telling you guys, it just doesn't happen because it's kind of one of those things. Again, you're paying for something, you're going to go out and you're going to find the business. Like you're going to do your telephone calls. You're going to go knock on those doors. You're going to get involved in the community. You're going to put yourself out there. If you spend the money, you will do the work. Like guaranteed. I've never looked back and said, oh my God, that cost me a lot of money just to have a marketing director, a admin staff, a transaction coordinator. It actually helped me make more money because I was able to do more business.
Well, and you're spending time doing the things that you're the expert at, and you're delegating out the tasks that were taking you the time. So
Absolutely.
ultimately, by time managing, you should have more time to do the activities that grow your business while delegating the activities to somebody for, maybe less than what
Oh, for
your
sure.
hourly, what you can continue to support it as
Yeah.
long as you use it,
Yeah, for
as
sure.
long as you delegate it right, as long as you truly do earmark these items for this person to do, because you are investing, you are spending the money on that person
Yeah.
to do those things. It's
Yep.
making sure that they're accountable and doing those things for you, and that you don't find yourself doing that, because then that's a good investment
Yeah.
versus a bad investment, right?
Absolutely. It kind of goes back to that. Are you working in your business or on your business? And, if you're spending too much time doing the office work that needs to be done, the paperwork, look at that hourly rate versus if you're out finding new business and, making your calls. And because you can't have your admin make your calls for you. You can't have your transaction making calls for you. They're not doing the listing presentations. You are. But while you're doing those things, you should have somebody behind the scenes doing your other things. And I should go back to like my virtual assistant, and there's virtual assistant. I mean, my transaction coordinator is virtual. So I don't pay her to sit at the desk Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I only pay when I have a closing. So if you want more information on that, just reach out to me. But, at first I thought, oh my God, I have to have a staff of a transaction coordinator. Well, nope, they're virtual, and you can have a virtual assistant. There's lots of agents that I know worldwide that have virtual assistants as well. So you're only going to pay them when you need them. Maybe you want them to, put together a marketing plan for you, or, a mailer, that you're going to mail out, and, email blasts, whatever it might be. Where if you don't have the money to have somebody sit at a desk Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, then just do more assignment based virtually.
Yeah.
Could help you save money too.
And
it's just a small way of getting kind of invested in what does an admin person look like.
yeah. And all of you have marketing. I'm do a lot of marketing here at the office. There's so many marketing tools here for you at Century 21. There's also admin assistants in each of your offices that are taking care of a lot of that for you. You have a lot of this built in as a Century 21 Atwood agent, that, a lot of that stuff is actually being done for you. But as you continue to get further and further in the process, and you're budgeting for that growth, you may find yourself needing an extra set of hands, or doing some of these things that do keep you up at night. So
Yeah.
one of the most eye-opening things, we've celebrated for months and months, like how many people have made it into the $1 million club, the $5 million club, the $10 million, and so on and so on. You guys, that's how much your business is doing. So you probably know other business owners out there. How many other business owners did $1 million this year?
Yeah.
When
That's
you
what I was
think
going to
of
say.
it like
Yep.
that.
Yep. Yeah. For me, I mean, my coach said that, like, okay, Candy, you sit and think of businesses in Mankato that or business owners that bring in, $10 million a year. Okay. I don't know if I could think of any, but if I did, the question then was, do you think they run that without doing a budget? Do you think they run that without having business hours, or having a staff, or having help? So you kind of got to think of it that way. Cause I know we just work, right?
Yep.
I mean, we're just out selling and showing houses, and we don't always think of the business part of it, but trust me and really believe me that when you start running this as a business, you will be more successful. Versus, I have anything to do today, so I'm just going to take a nap, or I'm going to, go shopping, or, whatever. Allow yourself that time too. I'm not saying don't do that, but make sure you're doing all your business stuff first. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can say there's ever a day that goes by, and that would be like 7 days a week, where I don't do something real estate related. I mean, you do have to be working in your business.
Yeah, Candy, there's a question for you here.
Let's see.
Tom asked, for us newbies, Can you share what tasks they do for you, transaction person or admin?
Oh, sure. So for the transaction coordinator, when I get a purchase agreement, whether I'm the listing agent or the selling agent, I hand that over to my transaction coordinator. Then she goes through the purchase agreement to make sure I have my I's dotted and T's crossed. And sometimes she'll say, you forgot to check this or you forgot to check that. And then we make those corrections, get it back to her. Then she puts in her calendar any contingency periods. So she'll constantly send you reminders of, hey, you have, 3 more days left on your home inspection contingency. Where are you guys at with it? And that's a good reminder to me and Sophie, my assistant, to be like, yeah, I should probably check in because, you do get busy. And then she'll check with the lender and make sure that the lender is on track. How are we coming on the lending process? Has the appraisal been sent out? Has the appraisal come back yet? All the things that go part of a transaction. Think of all the things you do to get to a successful closing. I literally now have a transaction coordinator doing, and it's still very personable. It's all about how I set it up I tell everybody that my transaction coordinator, Allie, will now be reaching out to you. She's going to keep me informed. She copies me on everything. When she sends something to the buyer or the seller, I always chime in and say, great, thanks for keeping us on track, Allie, so that they see the benefit of that. There's not one, since I've hired her, and again, that's been, I don't even know, 5-7 years, somewhere in there. I sleep much better. I don't wake up in the middle of the night going, oh, I have a closing tomorrow. Did I do everything? Everything is ready and set to go. So that's what the transaction coordinator does. And I pay $350. It might have went up, but I think around $350 per transaction. If I have both sides of it, she gives me a little bit of a discount. And she belongs to a pretty good sized company. They have offices in about 4 to 5 different states, but the one I use actually happens to be in Minneapolis. So, and then for the admin, well, that's a whole, like, I don't even know where to start to say what Sophie does, but basically she helps me run my business. So while I'm out and about, whether I'm showing houses, working in my business, doing listing appointments, she's in the office keeping everything run smoothly. I mean, if you want great details, more definitely let me know. I can share that with you if you're thinking about hiring one. But you can start small. Like I started my first one super small, and she was just helping me, part-time, and she was just helping me do like social media posts, managing my CRM. So I started pretty small. You don't have to have someone full-time neither. I mean, again, you can hire them project-based, like, hey, I want to do a blast email list, but I don't even have my list together. Have a virtual assistant help you with that. Or I want to mail letters out to people. Have them just help you with that.
Yeah. And it's really what works for your business, right? It's where you are, where you find yourself. It depends on, if you're scaling and you're talking about growth and you're doing 40, 50, 60 transactions a month. If you start to get to that point, let that be your,
a year, not a month, you guys.
Oh my gosh, sorry, I was just talking to overachievers, my bad. But just a year, like that could be your 10-year plan, that could be your 15-year plan, but it's like, that's where you're going.
Yeah.
Like, know what you're doing. You're investing in this. This is for the long term and what that looks like for you. So
for sure. Yeah.
You guys, bottom line, your business deserves a budget. It has to work as hard as you do.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't want to just be working all of these hours and have nothing to show for it at the end. You also want to continue to grow your business and see the fruits of your labor.
Absolutely. That is one thing Tom Ferry has, just really kind of drove into me a lot was, we don't work for free. And so, know what monies you have coming in and what monies you have going out. One thing that my coach had me do is she said, go and talk to 3 of your friends that happen to be business owners and talk to them about your budget. Like 1, ask them if they have a budget, and 2, what's in that budget and how often do you look at it? And, again, businesses like a boutique store or a spa, whatever it might be, they have budgets. They don't just open their doors and say, come on in. And, when the money's gone, we're going to close our door. I mean, that's just not how you work. Right? Sometimes that happens, right? But it's not how you should operate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So here's the takeaways from today. We've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about why or how or why would one even get a budget? Like that sounds like a lot of work, but
it's scary.
It's scary. We've also talked about how to set it, like how to figure out how much money and maybe some buckets. Hopefully we gave you some ideas on what maybe some of those buckets are. Maybe you thought, yeah, leads. I want to work on just leads, or I want to work on just social media, or just whatever that was for you. Maybe that's where you start, right? And then we also talked about tracking that. What's your return on investment for your budget? And then we also talked about reinvesting for growth. So how much more are you going to do next year? How can you continue to follow that business plan and hit those goals? Okay, so today's challenge, you guys, we're about to roll into holiday madness, right? It's going to be so fun, favorite time of the year. And then right after that holiday, you've got some time. Make a promise to yourself. Set it on your calendar right now that right after the holiday, or even in that week between Christmas and New Year, that you just take 1 hour even and just work on your 2025 budget. Maybe you need to start with the business plan. Maybe you need to just kind of map it out. Maybe you just need to write it down on a piece of paper just to get started, just so that you start somewhere. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be intentional.
Right, right. And then you'll find that every year you'll grow from that. You'll be like, oh, okay, well now I'm, instead of handwriting everything, I'm actually gonna put it in a computer. Or maybe you'll find an app. I think Matt had put in there that he has an app that he uses. I don't know if everybody
Yeah,
can
he
see
put
that
it
or
in the
not.
chat.
It's in the
So
chat. So if you want to go look at that, I think it's called monarchmoney.com. So, and look into some of those as well. But one thing like I would like to just throw out to you is if you don't even know where to start, just give me a call. Just send me a text message, an email. We can take a half hour and just have a conversation about it. But I think the biggest problem is most people don't know where to start and they just don't start.
yep,
So if you can know where to start and start it, you will have success, guaranteed.
absolutely. That's great. You guys are just one great decision away from transforming your business in 2025. Just think of it that way. Just one good decision. So make that decision, reinvest in yourself. You all work so hard. You are awesome. You can do it. We believe in you. And we're also here to help. So if you need any help, reach out. Candy's available. I'm available. Look for some online tools. Click on the link in your chat. Get hooked up with the Monarch Money. And just get started. I just see big, great things in all of your future. Also, keep an eye out for our AGENT21. We will be having a business planning workshop coming up here in January. So we're going to do it together. So if that's what it is, when you see that email come out to register for that, maybe that's your first step. You click register and you come prepared to actually start your business plan and budget. So whatever it is, just make it a great year for 2025. Be intentional. Have a very, very Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you. And Candy, thank you as always for sharing how you do this and how your budget is and being available to all of us if we want to help. That's so cool.
Yes, please do reach out. I truly mean it. I know from the last presentation I did, I've had a couple agents reach out and we've had great conversations. So please do.
Thank you. Have a great one. Bye-bye, everyone.
Happy holidays.